The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines. A small, fragile baby lay in the crib, his tiny body still and motionless. Liam, only a few months old, was not like other babies. From the very first days of his life, his parents noticed something was different. He didn't move his hands or kick his legs like most babies did. He hardly ever cried, and when he did, it was soft and almost like a whisper. His mother, Emily, would gently pick him up, trying to feel a reaction, a flutter of energy, but there was almost nothing. Her heart ached quietly every time she looked at him. Doctors had explained the condition carefully, using words that were hard for anyone to hear. Liam has a rare neurological disorder, they said. It affects his muscles and nerves. He may never move normally. We will need to monitor him closely, and physical therapy may help. But progress can be very slow. Emily and her husband, Daniel, had sat there in silence, holding each other's hands, trying not to cry in front of the doctor. The words felt heavy, like a stone pressing down on their hearts. They had dreamed of watching their baby crawl, laugh, and explore the world, and suddenly, it felt like those dreams might never come true. Every day, Emily would sit by Liam's crib, her hand resting lightly on his tiny chest. She would hum songs softly, hoping her voice might reach him in some way. Daniel would sometimes read stories aloud, even though Liam could not yet respond. They tried everything: gentle exercises suggested by therapists, special massages, even playing music that was supposed to stimulate movement. But nothing seemed to work. The baby remained still, his eyes open sometimes, staring quietly at the ceiling, but his body unmoving. It was as if he lived in a world that they could not reach. Friends and family came to visit, offering kind words and encouragement. "He's strong," some said. "Don't give up hope." But hope was hard to hold on to when every day felt the same. Emily would walk through the living room, her hands clenching the edge of her sweater, feeling helpless. Daniel would sit silently, watching Liam in the crib, wishing there was something, anything, he could do to help. They both loved Liam deeply, more than words could say, but love alone did not change the reality before them. It was a quiet, heartbreaking struggle. Despite the sadness, Emily noticed small things sometimes. A tiny twitch of a finger, a faint movement of an eyelid, or a barely noticeable smile when she sang. These moments were so small, so fleeting, that they were sparks of hope. She would hold Liam's hand tightly, whispering softly, "I see you, sweetheart. I know you're in there." And sometimes it felt like he did respond, if only in the smallest way. These tiny signs became the anchors that kept her going through long nights when Liam lay motionless, and the world outside the hospital window continued without pause. Daniel tried to stay strong, though he often felt the weight of helplessness pressing down on him. He spent hours researching, reading about other children with similar conditions, hoping to find stories of miracles or progress. Sometimes he found them, stories of children who had slowly learned to move, to respond, to smile. He would share these stories with Emily, and for a moment, the heavy cloud of worry would lift. They would imagine a future where Liam could crawl across the living room, reach for toys, and eventually walk. But those dreams seemed distant, almost impossible, as the months went by and Liam remained still. The hospital staff were kind and attentive. Nurses would gently adjust Liam's position in the crib, clean him, and check his vitals. Physical therapists would come to the room, trying to move his limbs gently, encouraging muscles to respond. Sometimes, Liam would cry softly during these sessions, but most often, he did not react at all. The therapists would exchange concerned looks with Emily and Daniel, saying encouraging words like, "Progress can take time," or "Every child develops differently." But the truth was, it was hard to see any progress at all. It felt like watching a seed that refused to sprout. No matter how much water and sunlight it received, Emily often stayed late into the night, sitting by Liam's crib, holding his tiny hand and talking to him quietly. She would tell him stories about the world outside, about the garden in their backyard, about the bright sunshine and the gentle rain. "You will see it all one day," she whispered, "and I will be right here with you." She believed that even if Liam could not respond now, he could hear her voice, feel her touch, and know that he was loved. It was a small comfort, a fragile thread of connection in the silence of the hospital room. Daniel would sometimes bring home small toys, hoping Liam might find joy in them. A soft stuffed bear, a colorful rattle, or a little blanket with bright patterns. He would place them near Liam's hands, gently guiding them to touch the toys. But Liam rarely reacted. The toys remained untouched, the patterns unnoticed. Daniel's heart ached each time, but he refused to give up. He would sit beside Liam, whispering encouragement. "We'll get there, buddy. I know you can do it." And even though progress was invisible to everyone else, he held on to the hope that Liam was learning, growing, and understanding in ways they could not yet see. The world outside the hospital seemed to move forward without pause. Emily and Daniel often looked out the window at other children playing in the park, running and laughing, and felt a pang of longing. They wondered if Liam would ever experience the same joy, the same freedom of movement. But even in their sorrow, they remained determined. They had made a promise the moment they held him in their arms. They would never give up on Liam, no matter how long the journey took. Every day was a mix of quiet despair and fragile hope. The parents learned to celebrate the tiniest victories, a small movement of a finger, a flicker of recognition in Liam's eyes, a brief smile. These moments became their treasures, reminders that life was still full of possibilities, even in the face of immense challenges. They clung to the belief that one day, something miraculous might happen, something that could change their lives forever. Months passed in this quiet rhythm. Liam lay still, as if waiting for something to awaken within him. His parents continued their care with unwavering dedication, never losing hope, never stopping their gentle encouragement. They loved him with all their hearts, and that love was constant, steady, and strong. It was a love that refused to be shaken by fear, worry, or despair. They believed in him, even when the world seemed to doubt. And in that quiet, steady belief, something extraordinary was quietly waiting to happen, a miracle that no one could have predicted. And it was in this time of stillness, in this long, silent struggle, that the family would soon discover that miracles often come in the most unexpected forms. A new presence was about to enter their lives, a small, lively creature who would bring hope, joy, and a spark of life to the quiet room where Liam lay. This presence would not only touch Liam's life, but transform it in ways that no one could have imagined. The days of stillness were about to give way to movement, laughter, and a bond so powerful that it would change everything. The house felt a little emptier since Liam had been home from the hospital. The quiet rhythm of life was familiar, but there was an invisible weight pressing on Emily and Daniel. Every day, they watched Liam lie in his crib, still and motionless, and their hearts ached with both love and worry. They had done everything the doctors suggested, from daily exercises to therapy sessions, but progress was painfully slow. It seemed like the world had paused just for them, and the long hours of silence and stillness had become almost unbearable. One afternoon, Daniel came home with a small surprise, hoping to lift the spirits of his family. He had visited a local animal shelter that was looking for foster homes and adopters for some of their puppies. Among the lively group of wagging tails and playful barks, one young German shepherd had stood out to him. The puppy was full of energy, curious about everything. Yet something about his gentle eyes told Daniel that this little dog could sense emotions and offer comfort in a way no human could. Emily was hesitant at first, when Daniel suggested bringing the puppy home. "He's energetic," she said, and Liam is so fragile. What if he gets too excited? But Daniel reassured her gently. I think he'll be different. Something about him feels special. He might even help Liam in ways we can't imagine. After a little thought, Emily agreed. They arranged to bring the puppy home for Liam, hoping, at the very least, that he could provide companionship and love. The day the puppy arrived, the house seemed to light up with his presence. Max, as they named him, bounded into the living room with bright eyes and a soft, wagging tail. He sniffed everything curiously, exploring the new space with excitement and energy. Daniel and Emily watched, amused and heartened by the puppy's lively nature. But their attention quickly turned to Liam, who lay quietly in his crib. The question lingered in their minds. Would Max notice him? Would he be gentle enough for their fragile baby? Almost immediately, Max did notice Liam. The puppy approached the crib slowly, his head tilting from side to side as he observed the motionless baby. He sniffed the air, then took a gentle step forward, placing his soft paws lightly on the edge of the crib. Liam did not move, but Max's eyes seemed to understand something the words could not explain. The puppy settled down nearby, lying quietly with his head resting gently on the mattress near Liam's tiny body. There was an almost magical sense of connection in that moment, a quiet understanding between the child and the puppy, even though neither had ever met before. Emily and Daniel watched in awe. Max's behavior was calm, almost protective. He did not jump, bark, or make sudden movements that could startle Liam. Instead, he stayed quietly, his eyes never leaving the baby. Emily whispered, I think he knows. Daniel nodded, unable to speak at first, overwhelmed by the calm presence Max brought. It was as if the puppy had sensed the fragility, the stillness, and the deep longing for connection in the room. And he chose to respond with patience and gentleness. Over the next few days, Max became a constant presence around Liam. He followed Emily and Daniel everywhere. But he always returned to lie next to the crib, keeping a watchful eye on the baby. He would nuzzle Liam's hand softly, sometimes gently paw at him, and even seemed to mimic his tiny movements. Emily noticed that when Max was near, Liam seemed calmer. There were subtle signs, an eyelid fluttering, a tiny finger twitching, that were barely noticeable but different from before. Emily's heart leapt every time she saw these small signs, hoping they were the beginnings of something bigger. The parents also noticed another surprising effect. Max seemed to respond to Liam's moods. On days when Liam was fussy or cried softly, Max would nuzzle him, lying closer, and sometimes letting out a soft whine, as if to say, I'm here. Don't worry. On days when Liam was quieter and more relaxed, Max would lie at the crib side calmly, almost like a guardian watching over him. Emily found herself smiling more often than she had in months, feeling a warmth in her heart that had been missing since Liam's birth. Max was more than a pet. He was a companion, a friend, and a source of hope. The parents decided to try something new. They brought Liam and Max together during therapy exercises. The physical therapist suggested gentle stimulation to encourage movement, but Liam often resisted, growing frustrated or tired quickly. When Max was present, however, Liam seemed more engaged. The puppy would nudge Liam's hands towards small toys, or even paw gently at his legs, encouraging him to react. Slowly, very slowly, Liam began to respond. A finger twitched, a hand moved slightly, and his eyes seemed to focus on Max with a spark of recognition. It was so subtle that it might have gone unnoticed, but to Emily and Daniel, it was a sign of hope. As the days passed, a routine developed. Every morning, Max would be the first to greet Liam. He would nuzzle his face softly, licking his tiny hands and lie close, offering warmth and comfort. Liam began to anticipate this ritual, sometimes moving slightly when Max approached. The parents began to notice small improvements that had not appeared before. Liam's fingers would curl around Max's paw, or he would reach out slightly toward the puppy's nose. Emily and Daniel exchanged glances, amazed at the changes. It was as if Max had awakened something within their son, something that had been dormant for months. Word of this unusual bond even reached the hospital staff. The physical therapist was intrigued. Animals can have a remarkable effect on emotional and physical development, she explained. Their presence can stimulate responses that traditional therapy sometimes cannot. What you are seeing may be a combination of love, companionship, and gentle stimulation. It's not common, but it's powerful. Emily and Daniel listened carefully, feeling a mix of relief and amazement. They had not expected a puppy to make such a difference, but now they could see it with their own eyes. Even during quiet nights, Max stayed close. He would curl up beside Liam's crib, resting his head near the tiny baby, and sometimes letting out soft, comforting sighs. Emily would watch, marveling at the sight, feeling tears well up in her eyes. "He's here for him," she whispered to Daniel. "He really is here for him." Daniel nodded, overwhelmed by gratitude. It was more than they could have hoped for, a miracle in the form of a four-legged friend who brought warmth, joy, and a subtle but profound change to their home. As weeks went by, the bond between Liam and Max grew stronger. Max seemed to understand when Liam needed encouragement, often nudging him during exercises or lying close when the baby seemed tired. Liam, in turn, began to respond more consistently. A twitch here, a small movement there, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Each tiny response was celebrated like a victory by Emily and Daniel. They began to believe that progress, though slow, was finally happening. And all of it, they felt, was because of the gentle, unwavering presence of their German Shepherd puppy. Emily and Daniel often reflected on the unexpected turn of events. They had spent months feeling helpless, unsure if their son would ever move, ever respond, ever experience the world the way other children did. And yet, with Max, everything seemed different. The puppy had brought not only companionship, but also hope, a spark of life in the quiet room that had been so still for so long. They began to understand that miracles sometimes arrive in forms we do not expect. Not in medicine, not in therapy, not in expert advice, but in love, patience, and a living, breathing friend who chooses to stay by your side, no matter what. The family began to notice small celebrations in the house. Max's playful leaps, Liam's tiny movements, and the soft laughter of the parents blended into a new rhythm of life. Emily and Daniel felt lighter, more hopeful, and more determined to support Liam every step of the way. The stillness that had dominated their days was slowly giving way to motion, laughter, and connection. It was a transformation, gentle but undeniable, and it all began with the arrival of a curious, kind-hearted German Shepherd puppy named Max. And so, in the quiet home, a miracle was quietly unfolding. Liam, who had lain still for months, was beginning to respond. Max, with his gentle paws and loving eyes, had become the spark that made it all possible. The long journey of struggle was far from over, but now, for the first time in months, Emily and Daniel felt that real hope was finally within reach. They watched, hearts full of love and gratitude, as their son began to discover the world, one small movement at a time, with a loyal puppy by his side. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, a remarkable change began to happen. Liam, who had spent months lying still and motionless, started showing signs of life in ways his parents had longed to see. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly, but Emily and Daniel noticed every little movement with hearts full of hope. A finger would twitch when Max nudged Liam's hand, or his tiny toes would curl slightly as the puppy lay close by. These small signs were treasures to the family, evidence that Liam was beginning to connect with the world around him. Thanks in no small part to Max's unwavering presence, the house was filled with a quiet energy, different from before. Max seemed to understand the importance of every moment, lying patiently near Liam, watching his reactions carefully. He would paw gently at Liam's blanket, nudging it toward him, or rest his head near the baby's hands. And almost as if responding to the puppy's encouragement, Liam began to make tiny movements. A hand would reach slightly toward Max's soft fur, or his eyes would follow the puppy's playful motions across the room. These were the first small miracles that gave Emily and Daniel hope that had been buried under months of worry and uncertainty. Therapy sessions began to take on a new rhythm. Before Max arrived, Liam often resisted the exercises, growing frustrated or tired quickly. But with Max by his side, the baby seemed more willing to participate. The physical therapist would guide Liam's arms and legs gently, and Max would nuzzle him or paw softly, almost like a cheerleader encouraging him to keep trying. Slowly, very slowly, Liam started responding more consistently. A hand would curl around the toy, a foot would push slightly against the mattress, and his eyes began to focus on what was happening around him. Every small movement was celebrated as if it were a major victory, because for this family, it truly was. Emily noticed that Liam's reactions to Max were growing stronger each day. Sometimes, when Max barked softly or nudged him, Liam would turn his head toward the sound or movement. A faint smile would appear on his tiny face, and occasionally, he would reach out with both hands. It was as if Max had unlocked something inside him, something that no therapy, medication, or human touch alone had been able to reach. The puppy's presence was not just comforting. It was transformative, bringing out the life and curiosity that had been quiet for so long. Daniel marveled at how connected the two had become. Max seemed to sense every subtle change in Liam's mood and reacted accordingly. On days when Liam was quiet or seemed tired, Max would lie close, keeping him company, offering warmth and reassurance. On days when Liam began to show more energy, Max would become playful, gently nudging the baby's hands or rolling nearby, encouraging movement. The bond between the child and the puppy was growing stronger with every passing day, forming a partnership that was both heartwarming and miraculous. One morning, a breakthrough happened that would forever change the family's perspective. Emily was sitting by Liam's crib, humming a soft lullaby, while Max lay beside the baby, resting his head gently near Liam's tiny chest. Suddenly, Liam twitched his fingers and reached out toward Max's nose. The puppy responded immediately, nudging Liam's hand with his soft snout. Emily and Daniel could hardly believe what they were seeing. It was the first intentional movement they had witnessed in months, a clear sign that Liam was beginning to interact with the world around him. Tears filled Emily's eyes as she whispered to Daniel, "Look, he's really trying." Daniel nodded, his own voice catching as he replied, "It's him. He's reaching out." In that moment, the months of worry, despair, and silent hope converged into a single, overwhelming feeling of joy. The baby who had seemed trapped in stillness for so long was beginning to respond to life. And the catalyst for this transformation was Max, the little German shepherd who had become more than a pet. He had become a lifeline. The therapists were amazed when they visited. They noticed Liam's increased responsiveness and subtle improvements in his movements. Emotional stimulation is incredibly important, one therapist explained. Sometimes it is the bond with a living, loving creature that can awaken responses in ways therapy alone cannot. What you are witnessing is extraordinary. Emily and Daniel listened carefully, their hearts swelling with pride and gratitude. They had seen it with their own eyes, the miracle unfolding before them, a transformation that could not be explained by medicine alone. As the days continued, Liam's tiny movements grew more frequent and deliberate. He began to wiggle slightly when Max approached, turning his head toward the puppy and trying to reach out. His fingers started curling around Max's fur more consistently, and occasionally, he would even try to push off the mattress slightly with his legs. Each new development was celebrated with gentle laughter, soft cheers, and tears of joy. Emily and Daniel began to feel a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to nurture every small step forward, knowing that progress, though slow, was happening, even at home. The family noticed changes in Liam's personality. He began to show curiosity, eyes widening when he saw something new or interesting. He would follow Max's movements across the room with fascination, occasionally trying to reach toward the puppy's wagging tail. His smiles became more frequent, subtle at first, then gradually more noticeable. Emily and Daniel realized that Liam was not just responding physically, but emotionally as well. The bond with Max was helping him engage with the world in a way that had seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Emily began to capture these moments on camera, documenting every tiny movement, every smile, every interaction with Max. She wanted to remember each step, to show Liam one day how far he had come. Daniel would review the footage with her, amazed at the progress they were witnessing. "It's incredible," he said. "I never thought we'd see him move like this. And it's all because of Max." Emily nodded, hugging Daniel tightly. "He's more than a puppy," she said softly. "He's a miracle." Family friends who visited began to notice the change as well. They would watch in amazement as Liam responded to Max, smiling or reaching out in ways he never had before. Many commented on the unusual bond, saying how remarkable it was that a puppy could have such a positive influence on a child. Emily and Daniel would smile, quietly grateful, knowing that this miracle had happened in their home through patience, love, and the gentle, unspoken connection between their son and the puppy who refused to leave his side. Max, too, seemed to understand his role. He would stay close during therapy, nudging Liam's hands, offering comfort during moments of frustration, and celebrating the baby's small victories with happy barks and playful movements. It was as if the puppy had taken it upon himself to guide Liam, encouraging him to reach, move, and explore in ways that felt natural and safe. The home was no longer just a quiet space of stillness. It had become a lively, hopeful environment where miracles were quietly unfolding each day. Emily and Daniel often reflected on the journey so far. They had entered this chapter of their lives filled with worry and fear, unsure if their son would ever move or respond. And yet now they watched as Liam began to interact with the world, inspired and encouraged by Max's unwavering companionship. They understood that miracles sometimes arrive in forms we do not expect, and that hope, love, and patience can work wonders in the most surprising ways. As weeks turned into months, Liam's progress continued steadily. Every small movement, every smile, and every interaction with Max built upon the last. His parents remained vigilant, nurturing each development with gentle encouragement and love. The quiet, still days of the past were gradually being replaced with laughter, curiosity, and the joyful sounds of a child discovering life alongside his loyal, loving puppy. And in the midst of it all, Emily and Daniel felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey had been long, challenging, and filled with uncertainty, but it was also filled with moments of magic and wonder. Max, the German Shepherd puppy who had entered their lives as a gift, had become an essential part of Liam's healing and growth. Through patience, love, and the quiet power of companionship, the family had begun to witness small miracles that gave them hope for a future filled with possibility, joy, and the promise of even greater achievements yet to come. It had been several months since Max, the German Shepherd puppy, had arrived in the household. The quiet, still days that had once dominated the family's life were slowly being replaced by small bursts of movement, laughter, and hope. Liam's tiny fingers twitched more frequently. His eyes followed objects and people with increasing attention, and his little legs occasionally pushed against the mattress. Every day brought new surprises, Small victories that Emily and Daniel celebrated quietly, but with hearts full of pride. Yet, even with these improvements, there was still a longing deep in their hearts for a true breakthrough. A moment that would make them realize just how far Liam had come. One early morning, sunlight streamed gently through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the nursery. Liam lay in his crib, his eyes half closed but beginning to stir with curiosity. Max was already nearby, his head resting lightly on the edge of the crib, watching Liam with attentive eyes. The puppy had become an inseparable part of the baby's life, a constant source of comfort, encouragement, and playful energy. Emily sat quietly nearby, sipping her coffee and watching the scene unfold. She felt a flutter of anticipation in her chest, sensing that something extraordinary might happen today. Daniel joined her, and together they observed Liam with gentle smiles. The baby's eyes began to focus more clearly, following Max's movements across the crib. Slowly, Liam's tiny fingers twitched again, and his little hands moved toward Max's soft fur. Emily and Daniel exchanged glances, holding their breath, hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and nervous excitement. Max, sensing the moment, nudged Liam's hand gently with his nose. Then, as if fueled by the puppy's encouragement, Liam made a deliberate movement. He lifted his hand slightly, brushing against Max's snout. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she whispered, "Daniel, look, he's really reaching." Daniel, his voice caught with emotion, nodded. He's really doing it." For months, Liam had been mostly still, his tiny body unresponsive despite therapy and loving care. But now, in this quiet, sunlit moment, he had moved intentionally, responding to Max's gentle encouragement. It was the first time the family truly felt the miracle of progress, a tangible sign that their baby was beginning to engage with the world in a meaningful way. Encouraged by this small but powerful movement, the family continued to support Liam's efforts. Max remained close, nudging him softly, lying beside him, and even letting out a few happy barks that seemed to say, "Keep going. You can do it." Liam responded with more deliberate movements, lifting both hands toward the puppy, trying to touch his ears, and even making tiny kicking motions with his legs. Emily and Daniel clapped softly and cheered quietly, careful not to startle him, but overjoyed by the remarkable progress. That morning marked a turning point. From that day on, Liam's responsiveness became more consistent. Each time Max approached, Liam would attempt to reach out, wiggle his fingers, or move his legs slightly. The bond between child and puppy seemed almost magical. Max's presence motivated Liam in ways that no therapy session alone had been able to do. The parents watched with amazement as their son interacted more with the puppy, showing curiosity, joy, and even the beginnings of personality. Physical therapy sessions became more productive as well. Previously, Liam had resisted exercises, becoming tired or frustrated easily. But now, with Max by his side, he seemed eager to participate. The therapist would place Liam's hands on small toys or gently move his legs, and Max would encourage him with soft nudges and playful movements. Liam responded eagerly, grasping objects, pushing slightly with his legs, and even attempting to roll onto his side. Each small success was met with gentle celebration, laughter, and tears of joy. The family felt as though they were witnessing a miracle unfold in real time. Emily often reflected on how unexpected this transformation had been. When Max first arrived, she had been cautious, unsure if a lively puppy could really help Liam. But now, she could not imagine life without him. Max had become more than a pet. He was a teacher, a motivator, and a source of unconditional love. He had awakened something within Liam that had been dormant for months, guiding him toward movement, engagement, and joy. Every nudge, paw, and gentle bark seemed to carry encouragement, helping Liam discover the possibilities of his own body and mind. The breakthrough continued in small but significant ways. One afternoon, Emily placed Liam on a soft mat on the floor for tummy time, with Max lying close by. For the first time, Liam lifted his head and upper body with support, turning it slightly toward Max. The puppy responded immediately, wagging his tail and nudging Liam's shoulder gently. Liam's tiny arms pressed against the mat, and he tried to push himself forward. Emily and Daniel held their breath, watching as months of patience, therapy, and love converged in this single moment. Liam's determination, combined with Max's unwavering encouragement, created a miracle that words could hardly capture. Even in the quiet moments, progress continued. Liam began to show more awareness of his surroundings, following Max with his eyes and reacting to the puppy's playful gestures. A tiny laugh would escape his lips when Max pawed at a blanket, or he would reach out eagerly to touch Max's soft fur. Each of these moments was a reminder that life was beginning to unfold for Liam, that he was discovering the joy and connection that had been missing for so long. Emily and Daniel could hardly contain their emotions, feeling a mixture of relief, gratitude, and overwhelming love. Family and friends noticed the changes too. When they visited, they marveled at Liam's responsiveness, commenting on how he seemed to engage with Max in a way that was extraordinary for a baby his age. Emily and Daniel shared the story of Max's arrival and the impact he had made on their son, inspiring those around them with the power of patience, love, and unexpected companionship. People were amazed that a small puppy could help awaken a child's physical and emotional development, and the story became a source of hope for others facing challenges. Even the doctors were impressed. When Liam had his routine checkup, they observed his movements and responsiveness. "This is remarkable progress," the pediatrician said, smiling warmly. The bond between Liam and Max has clearly had a positive impact on his development. Emotional support and companionship can be incredibly powerful, and it seems that Max has provided exactly what Liam needed. Emily and Daniel exchanged a quiet glance, their hearts full of gratitude. They had known it all along, but hearing it confirmed by professionals made the miracle feel even more real. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the family gathered in the nursery. Liam lay in his crib, Max curled up beside him, and Emily and Daniel watched silently, savoring the moment. Liam reached out once more, brushing his tiny hand against Max's nose, and the puppy responded with a gentle lick. It was a simple gesture, but it carried the weight of months of struggle, hope, and love. In that quiet moment, the family felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that Liam's journey of discovery, movement, and joy had truly begun. From that day forward, every interaction between Liam and Max became a celebration of life. Each smile, each reach, each small movement was a victory. Emily and Daniel continued to nurture Liam's growth, combining therapy, encouragement, and the unique bond with Max to help him explore the world. Slowly but surely, Liam's confidence and abilities expanded, proving that patience, love, and the companionship of a devoted friend could work miracles. The breakthrough moment had not only changed Liam's life but also transformed the entire family. Emily and Daniel felt a renewed sense of hope, gratitude, and joy. Max, their little German shepherd, had become a hero in the most gentle and loving way imaginable. Through his playful energy, patient companionship, and unwavering support, he had helped Liam discover the first real steps toward a brighter, more joyful life. And so, the quiet, still days that had once filled the home were replaced with laughter, movement, and a sense of possibility. Liam's progress continued, each day building on the last, with Max faithfully by his side. Emily and Daniel knew that the journey was far from over, but they also knew that the miracle they had witnessed, the day Liam first reached out and moved intentionally, would remain in their hearts forever. It was a moment of hope, love, and transformation that proved that even the smallest gestures, guided by care and compassion, could create extraordinary change. The days following Liam's breakthrough were filled with hope, excitement, and a quiet sense of wonder. For months, his parents, Emily and Daniel, had watched their baby lie still, barely moving. And now, step by step, movement had begun to blossom. Every twitch of a finger, every wiggle of a toe, and every tiny reach for Max, their devoted German shepherd, was a celebration of life, a signal that Liam's world was slowly opening up. The family had come a long way, and the feeling of possibility filled every corner of the home. Max had become more than a puppy. He was a companion, a friend, a motivator, and, in many ways, a guide. He stayed close to Liam at all times, lying beside him, nudging him gently, and responding to every small movement with playful encouragement. Emily often marveled at how Max seemed to understand exactly what Liam needed. If the baby grew frustrated or tired, Max would stay calm, offering warmth and quiet comfort. If Liam showed even the slightest curiosity or energy, Max would respond with happy barks or gentle nudges. The bond between the two was extraordinary, almost magical, and it had brought a joy to the household that had been missing for so long. Physical therapy sessions became joyful rather than stressful. Where once Liam had resisted exercises and grown quickly tired, he now seemed eager to participate. Max would lie nearby, nudging Liam's hands towards soft toys or pawing gently at his feet to encourage movement. Liam responded with determination, lifting his arms, kicking his legs, and turning his head to watch Max's movements. His confidence grew with every interaction, and Emily and Daniel couldn't help but cheer quietly at every success. Even the smallest victories, a smile, a stretch, a deliberate touch felt monumental. After months of waiting, the family began to notice improvements outside of structured therapy as well. Liam started reaching for objects, showing curiosity about his surroundings, and interacting more with both his parents and visitors. Max was always nearby, his presence inspiring confidence and comfort. Liam would watch the puppy play with fascination, trying to mimic Max's movements with his own little arms and legs. He even began to vocalize softly, cooing and babbling in response to Max's happy sounds. Each new expression, each small interaction, was a step forward, a demonstration that life was becoming more vibrant for the little boy, who had once lain still for months. Emily often reflected on how much the family had grown during this time. The arrival of Max had not only changed Liam's life, but also their own. The house felt alive with energy and warmth, the quiet days replaced by laughter, movement, and moments of connection. Emily and Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the little puppy who had become their miracle. He had brought joy, companionship, and, most importantly, the spark that helped Liam discover his own strength and determination. Even outside the home, Liam's progress was evident. Family, friends, and relatives who visited were amazed at how responsive and engaged he had become. They would watch as Liam reached for Max, laughed at his playful antics, and interacted with toys and people around him. Emily and Daniel shared the story of Max's arrival and the transformation that followed, hoping to inspire others with the idea that love, patience, and unexpected companions can sometimes create miracles. The story became one of hope, demonstrating that even the smallest gestures, like bringing a puppy into a home, can have a profound impact. Doctors continued to monitor Liam's development, noting improvements in both his physical and emotional responses. His progress is remarkable, the pediatrician said during a visit. The bond with Max has clearly contributed to his growth and engagement. Emotional support can be incredibly powerful, and you've provided exactly what Liam needed. Emily and Daniel exchanged grateful smiles. They had long suspected it, but hearing it confirmed by a professional made their hearts swell with happiness. Max had been more than a helper. He had been a catalyst for Liam's transformation, an integral part of the journey. As Liam grew stronger, he began to explore his world with increasing confidence. Supported by Emily and Daniel, he started attempting to sit with assistance, roll over, and reach for objects around him. Max was always close by, offering encouragement and companionship. Sometimes, Max would lie in front of Liam, and the baby would push himself slightly to reach the puppy, his tiny hands grasping fur as if to connect with the source of his courage. Emily and Daniel watched in awe, realizing that every small movement Liam made was a triumph over the months of stillness and struggle. The family also cherished the quiet, intimate moments. At night, Max would curl up beside Liam in his crib, his soft breathing a comforting presence. Liam would rest his hand on Max, sometimes drifting off to sleep with the puppy's warmth beside him. These moments, filled with quiet connection and trust, were a reminder that healing and growth were not always measured by grand achievements, but by simple acts of companionship, love, and comfort. The bond between baby and puppy had created a safe, nurturing environment where Liam could flourish. Emily and Daniel began to imagine the future with renewed optimism. They pictured Liam exploring more actively, crawling, and eventually walking, always with Max nearby. They thought about the first steps Liam might take, the first words he would speak, and the first time he would run and play, guided and inspired by the little puppy who had brought so much hope into their lives. Every day offered a new opportunity to witness progress, to celebrate life, and to recognize the extraordinary impact that love and companionship could have. Max continued to play an essential role in therapy at home. He helped keep Liam motivated, offered comfort when the baby grew frustrated, and celebrated every small success with playful enthusiasm. Liam responded in turn, reaching, stretching, and engaging more each day. Emily and Daniel carefully documented the progress, capturing photos and videos to remember each milestone. These memories became treasures, a record of a journey that had begun in silence and stillness and was now blossoming into movement, connection, and joy. The story of Liam and Max became more than a family tale. It became a message of hope for others facing challenges. Emily and Daniel shared their experience with friends, neighbors, and online communities, emphasizing the importance of patience, love, and unexpected support. They wanted people to know that even when a situation seems impossible, miracles can happen in ways no one anticipates. A puppy's gentle presence, consistent encouragement, and unconditional love had helped Liam discover his own potential, proving that extraordinary outcomes often begin with small, loving gestures. Months passed, and Liam's development continued steadily. He began to sit with minimal support, reach for toys and objects with increasing accuracy, and interact more with people and his surroundings. His personality emerged gradually curious, joyful, and eager to explore the world. Max remained an essential companion, offering comfort, encouragement, and a playful spirit that inspired Liam every day. Together, they had formed a bond that was unbreakable, a partnership of trust, love, and shared growth. Emily and Daniel often reflected on the journey they had taken as a family. They remembered the quiet, still days when Liam had seemed unreachable, the nights filled with worry, and the moments of helplessness they had felt in the hospital and at home. And they remembered Max, the small, lively German shepherd who had entered their lives and transformed everything. The puppy had been a source of hope, a motivator, and a friend, helping Liam take his first steps toward movement, confidence, and joy. The home was now filled with laughter, playful sounds, and the gentle rhythm of growth. Liam continued to improve, and every new milestone was celebrated with love and gratitude. Emily and Daniel felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that their family had overcome so much together. Max had not only changed Liam's life, but had enriched theirs as well, teaching them the power of patience, dedication, and the healing strength of companionship. In the quiet moments, Emily would watch Liam and Max together and feel a deep sense of peace. Liam's little hands would reach for the puppy, his eyes shining with recognition and joy. Max would respond with soft nudges, playful movements, and unwavering loyalty. It was a picture of connection, love, and growth, a living testament to the miracles that can happen when compassion and care come together. And so, the family's journey continued, filled with hope, laughter, and the promise of a bright future. Liam's progress, once so uncertain, was now clear and steady. Max remained a steadfast companion, always by his side, offering support, encouragement, and love. The once quiet, still home was now a place of life and joy, a space where miracles were not just possible, they were happening every day. Emily and Daniel felt immense gratitude for the little puppy who had brought so much light into their lives, forever changing the story of their son and their family. In the end, the family knew that miracles sometimes come in the most unexpected forms. A tiny puppy, full of energy and heart, had helped a paralyzed baby discover movement, joy, and hope. Liam's life had been transformed, not by magic, but by love, patience, and the unwavering companionship of a devoted friend. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been filled with wonder, connection, and profound moments of happiness. And as Liam reached out to Max, smiling and moving with growing confidence, Emily and Daniel knew that their